Honourable members, please be seated. Secretary General.
Motion in the name of the Honourable Jese Saukuru.
Honourable members, I now call upon the Honourable Jese Saukuru to move his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Parliament hereby resolves to establish a special committee under Standing Order 129 to review maritime outer island development programs. Parliament hereby appoints the following members of the special committee: Honourable Viam Pillay, Assistant Minister for Agriculture and Regional Development as Chairperson; Honourable Selai and Adimaitoga, Assistant Minister for iTaukei Affairs; Honourable Vijay Nath, Assistant Minister for Infrastructure and Transport; Honourable Hon Jese Saukuru, Shadow Minister for Regional Development; and Honourable Anare Jale, Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Second the motion, sir.
Honourable members, I now invite the Honourable Jese Saukuru to speak to his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that Parliament hereby resolves to establish the special committee under Standing Order 129 with the named honourable members. I table the motion as read in the order paper. At the outset of my speech, sir, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Business Committee for approving this motion to see the light of the day and thereby facilitate discussion on this pertinent issue and related matters. Sir, Fiji is not its towns and cities. Honourable Speaker, the real Fiji is its rural and maritime areas where history rhymes with hope and the beauty of the Fiji Islands, in the goodness of its people, wealth of our natural resources, and serenity of our natural environment blends with the blue skies and the Pacific Ocean. Honourable Speaker, in its inclusive socio-economic development forward of the 20 years development plan, 2017 to 2036, government had assured us, and I quote, that all socio-economic rights in the Constitution are realized. Inclusivity will be at the center of growth and development, and the benefits of prosperity will be spread as widely as possible to improve the social well-being of all Fijians. No one will be left behind, regardless of geographical location, gender, ethnicity, physical and intellectual capability, and social and economic status, unquote. Sir, Article 7.2 of the ILO Convention 169 states, and I quote, the improvement of the conditions of life and work and levels of health and education of the peoples concerned, with their participation and cooperation, shall be a matter of priority in the plans for the overall economic development of areas they inhabit. Special projects for development of the areas in question shall also be so designed as to promote such development, unquote. Fiji has signed and ratified ILO Convention 169, and it is binding on the government and all its agencies unless government withdraws from the convention. Mr. Speaker, sir, today 413,000 people, or about 45.5% of our total population as recorded in the 2017 census, reside in our rural areas. Many rural communities have yet to share in the fruits of economic growth and development. Most rural communities are still denied access to basic services and utilities. Less than 2/3 of our rural households have access to tap water, with the balance depending on rivers and wells for this basic right. Rural villages and settlements are still undeveloped in terms of water supply and sanitation. The major challenge is to create an environment conducive to attracting investment and opportunities for a better quality of life in our rural communities. It is the responsibility of government to provide the enabling environment for national development through the development of better infrastructure, improved utilities and opportunities for the people to develop their natural resources. The same applies in the Maritime and Outer Islands. The implementation of the Rural and Outer Island Development Program should be revisited, reviewed and realigned to the current need of our rural and outer island communities. So the Look North policy was a government initiative, especially for the Northern Division. The Look North policy was envisioned to have far-reaching impacts, both demographically and economically. It has the potential to alter the traditional dynamics of Fiji's population flow, to arrest the urban drift and to keep many Northerners happy where they are with jobs and sustainable futures. It may even encourage more Fijians to move to the north, a prospect that undoubtedly pleases the residents of Honolulu as a whole. So, the objective of this motion is to establish a special committee under Standing Order 129 to catalyze development for our people in the Maritime and Outer Islands. The Eastern Division includes Kandavu Province, Lau Province, Lomaiviti Province, and Rotuma. The division is the largest in the area, but is the smallest land area, and it has sea borders with Central, Northern, and the Western Division. Honourable Speaker, sir, before I move to the development programs needed for the Maritime Outer Islands, which I envision the special committee will explore, I wish to deliberate on two issues that are pertinent to these areas. One, rural to urban drift. Honourable Speaker, Fiji's rural population is around 46% of our population. This is compared to 70% in the late 1970s. So there has been a continuing decline in the rural population. Combination of out-migration, the extension of urban boundaries were the main causes of decline in the number of rural dwellers in the following provinces. Ba province by 28,465, with a rural proportion of Ba's population decreasing by 47.8% in 2007 to 31.2% in 2017. The Kaunrawe by 2,840, with a rural proportion of the Kaunrawe's population decreasing from 85.7% in 2007 to 78.2% in 2017. Kandavu was the only island in the maritime zone that recorded an increase in its rural population. The population of rural Maduata in Honolulu, Fiji's second largest island, dropped by 4,875, and mainly attributed to the movement of people out of rural areas, while Maduata's population decreased from 60.3% in 2007 to 58.8% in 2017. Sir, it is the presence of the modern cash economy that will continue to drive people from their homes in the rural and maritime areas to urban centers in their search for employment and a quest for better education. Some succeed while others fail, and they join the unemployed queue. Honourable Speaker, sir, I urge the Special Committee to consider the infrastructure development programs that are pending for the Maritime and Outer Islands. When proper infrastructure is built and modes of transport linking villages to urban centers improve, we may see more people move to villages where the cost of living is much cheaper and they do not pay rent because they reside in their own homes. They plant their own food, get fresh sea and river food, and raise livestock if they want. The second issue I want to talk about, sir, is on border security. Mr. Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, once said, and I quote, "Good, healthy democratic societies are built on three pillars. There is peace and stability, economic development, and respect for the rule of law and human rights. But often we take stability, peace in terms of security and economic activity to mean a country is doing well. We forget the third and important pillar of rule of law and respect for human rights, because no country can long remain prosperous without that third pillar," unquote. So the Pacific Islands are now an integral part of the drug highway and is at the center of cocaine trafficking boom. The explosion in the number of boats carrying cocaine and methamphetamines from Latin America to feed the Australia and New Zealand market is causing havoc for our Pacific Island states. So it is a drug route never heard before, a multi-billion-dollar operation involving cocaine and methamphetamines being packed in hulls of sailing boats in the US and Latin America and transported to Australia, where the Pacific Islands more often thought as holiday destinations than narcotic hubs. I'll talk about infrastructure development. Dr. V.K. R.V. Rao, an Indian economist, once said, and I quote, "The link between infrastructure and economic development is not one-time and for all affair. It is a continuous process, and progress in a development has to be preceded, accompanied, and followed by progress in infrastructure. If we are to fulfill our declared objectives of generating a self-accelerating process of economic development." On infrastructure development involves fundamental structures that are required for the functioning of a community and society. The 8 elements of infrastructure development that I propose, sir. 1, transportation. Government must ensure safe, efficient, affordable, environmentally friendly, sound, sustainable inter-island transportation services. 2, on energy. Under SDG 7.1 of government, the percentage of population with electricity access should be 100% by 2021. Water. Access and affordability to water is a basic human right recognized in the 2013 Constitution. I am informed the government's rural water supply program will be augmented to provide access to clean water in rural areas and to meet the target 85% of rural communities having access by 2021. Green infrastructure, long-term sustainability of renewable access energy resources based on the principles of the Green Growth Framework. On digital infrastructure, an increased household penetration of broadband in Fiji to 70% by 2021 as per SDG 17.6. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, our people in the Maritime and outer islands continue to suffer from digital connectivity issue despite all the hoopla about Walesi and digital Fiji that cannot access digital Fiji, and they continue to be left behind, contrary to the promise in the government strategic plan that no one will be left behind. Social infrastructure, promote a caring environment where everyone is safe and protected. The government services is to ensure that there is a right policy mix to encourage the proper business environment. And there should be resilience in developing and enforcing building standards for new home construction that require improved resilience to cyclones and flooding. Mr. Speaker, sir, many in the maritime zones and outer islands are still await the help for homes assistance they were promised 4 years ago after severe tropical cyclone Winston. I'll move on to sustainable economic activities. In summing up the work of Sustainable Development Goals, the Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg, said, a little less conversation, a little more action. Honourable Speaker, the goal of community sustainability is to establish local economies that are economically viable, environmentally sound, and socially responsible. Achieving this goal requires participation from all sectors of the community, both to determine community needs and to identify and implement innovative and appropriate solutions. So the Maritime and Outer Islands have the capacity to articulate growth in all the sectors of our economy. In agriculture and food systems, community efforts can preserve agricultural land, encourage sustainable agriculture practices, support local food producers, and facilitate the production and distribution of locally produced foods through farmers' markets and cooperative food buying programs. With an average of 7.11% contribution to GDP for the last 9 years, agriculture is a key sector of our economy if it is properly supported. On fisheries, aquatic wildlife play a major role in sustaining healthy marine and freshwater ecosystems. It is therefore important that communities associated with fisheries and aquatic ecosystems responsibly manage these resources. Community participation can provide support for sound management practices and remedial programs, as well as for persons and industries engaged in commercial and recreational fishing. The contribution of fisheries sector to GDP is currently on low at 0.67%, but this can be enhanced with an export emphasis. Forestry and wood products. Trees are important for both urban and rural ecosystems. Mature trees maintain desirable microclimates and shelter wildlife. Trees also have economic values as a raw material used in producing paper, building, furniture, and other wood products. Value adding is key to the growth of the forestry and logging sector that currently contributes 0.25% of GDP. Manufacturing and industry, economically healthy business and industries with minimal environmental impact on communities should be encouraged. Communities should work to attract and support such industries and to reduce or eliminate negative impacts from existing industries. New approaches like the tax-free zones must be explored to further enhance this important sector that currently contributes 10.53% of GDP. Small business are sources of employment and providers and consumers of goods and services that sustain the local economy. Their operations should support the local ecology, minimize energy use and waste, and utilize recycled products and materials. Technological advances in business, health, education, and the environment provide new opportunities for communities. More information products are available, and some may have environmental implications. Communities must be current and guide their economies accordingly. Economics and finance. Residents from all segments of the community can play a role in the future of their local economy. Working together, business and government leaders, local non-profit organizations and citizens can analyze needs and resources and guide the economy. Local financial institutions should be encouraged to invest in sustainable community initiatives. Land survey. Honourable Speaker, it is in the interest of government and resource owners to work together in mutually supportive ways. A major part of the maritime outer islands are still unsurveyed to demarcate land boundaries and to encourage cooperative efforts in land preservation, sustainable agriculture, growth management, appropriate development of rural resources, improved trading and tourism, and development of low-impact regional planning and transportation systems. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am moving this motion revives the true spirit of bipartisanship in this House and beyond its parameters, uniting all people and guiding them to consider the policies and programs beneficial to the interests and aspirations of those who live and travel to our rural and maritime areas. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, sir, I commend the motion before the House.
I thank the honourable member for his motion, and the floor is now open for anyone wishing to participate in the debate. Honourable Minister Kuroila Visau, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. I wish to make a short contribution to the debate before the House. Honourable Speaker, sir, the Fiji First Government is committed to provide quality service to all Fijians, including rural and maritime islands. As I have alluded to in previous sittings, that over the past years, I have visited 50 communities in rural and maritime islands to ensure that we continue to provide service to all Fijians. In some visits, I have moved around with the Honourable Minister for Forestry, as both fisheries and forestry are natural resources of high value in our rural areas. Honourable Speaker, sir, this visit includes the whole of Lau Group, Yasawa, Watulele, Yanuda, Kandavu, Lomaiviti, Taveuni, Kioa, Rambi, Yandua, Kia, Nagelewu, Thikombia, to name a few. I have visited some places twice to guarantee that our community needs are provided. Honourable Speaker, sir, during these visits, the Ministry of Fisheries have commissioned 2 new fishery stations, namely Moala and Didia. Additionally, we have assisted communities in solar-powered freezers to help them to contribute and improve their livelihoods through income generation. Honourable Speaker, sir, in the last 3 weeks, we have installed solar freezers in Enuda, Serua, Endua in Bua, and Nairai in Lomaiviti. Apart from this, the Ministry of Fisheries values the need to protect vulnerable resources from being exploited. Through the collaboration of Fishing Association, we have assisted rural communities with fiberglass vessels to support surface patrol and provide access to markets. Honourable Speaker, our visit to these communities are not limited to fisheries priorities. As I have stated, our government commitment to service delivery also takes into account priorities of line agencies and ministries. We normally invite other ministries to accompany us, especially from the Rural and Maritime Development and iTaukei and others. Therefore, Honourable Speaker, we undertake 2 important things in our visit. One, we include our line agencies and ministries whose services are needed in these islands. We provide, then what is he trying to say? If that is being done. Why bring the motion again?
Yeah, exactly.
We're just complicating and doubling up on the things, the efforts that have been done in the past. It just shows, Honourable Speaker, it just shows how confused they are.
Yeah, exactly.
We provide written matrix to all requests and queries received from communities to ministries and agencies responsible for their actions. Honourable Speaker, sir, an example of this is a request we received from the head teacher in Yandua recently. During our visit, the head teacher highlighted that they need assistance in the delivery of their school furniture. Through our current working arrangement, we liaised with the Ministry of Education, and we were able to deliver the school furniture through our Nabawalu office. So there's a lot of collaboration already happening between government ministries and agencies, and this should be sufficient and to avoid the reproduction or doubling up of the efforts that are already on the ground. Honourable Speaker, sir, We must be very careful in dealing with maritime and rural outer islands. It is not a one-size-fits-all scenario. And government needs to prioritize development needs that are suitable. For example, Nangeli level, which at the moment has only one family, will be totally different from the needs of 5 villages in Onoilau, including the one village in Watoa. So we should not consider it as one-size-fits-all. We cannot overpromise. Each request needs to be scrutinized by government agencies before a decision is made. Honorable Speaker, there are existing arrangements to support the current government's goal of providing efficient and cost-effective service to our rural and maritime communities. I am not in support of the motion due to the fact that there are extensive consultation processes currently in place, and the motion will only duplicate matters. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Sir.
I thank the Honourable Minister. Honourable Charlotte Rondo.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise to support the motion, and I will speak on the inter-island shipping network and also on the domestic air services, Honourable Speaker. And I know in just the recent debate, there were words thrown across the House blaming each other that we're misleading or that we are lying. Therefore, Honourable Speaker, my address or my presentation this afternoon is based on the 5-year development plan of this government. And on the inter-island network shipping, it says the goal is safe, efficient, reliable, and affordable shipping services. And the 5-year development plan, this is from 2017 to 2021. And the second paragraph reads, government in the next 5 years will ensure improved inter-island transportation in the maritime region. Investments will be undertaken for construction and upgrade of jetties, waiting sheds, slipways, navigational aids like lighthouses and beacon piles, and assistance for purchase of smaller boats for inter-island connectivity. Funding will also be channeled towards developing small boat landings in the maritime regions and other coastal areas. Honourable Speaker, I read that out to remind the House, particularly the government, with that kind of commitment, how much is given to the ministry's budget? That ministry, Rural and Maritime, is one of the ministries that has got the least budget, Honourable Speaker. And I will pick on one of the policies as highlighted in this 5-year development plan, and that is on the development of maritime infrastructure. And I will just pick one of these strategies, and that is upgrade and construct new infrastructure, jetties and berthing facilities in the maritime islands, including construction of waiting sheds. Honourable Speaker, I'm not really sure how many new jetties this government has constructed. If at the most, maybe 2. Otherwise, all these are existing jetties from previous government's efforts. Honourable Speaker, and for the waiting sheds, I remember putting up a post on when I went through Natovi, and then someone responded and said that the Vunisea passenger shed is worse off than Natovi. And I look across the House, almost everyone sitting across the House have gone through Natovi. And just in the last week or so, Honourable Usamate was there. Honourable Corella Vesau has gone through there. Honourable Minister for Health had gone through there. And also the Honourable Prime Minister, I believe, Honourable Speaker. And none of them has ever highlighted the condition or the state of that waiting shed. I bring up those waiting sheds in this house, Honorable Speaker. I bring up those waiting sheds in the house, and still, I brought that up again this morning, because how can you be looking at major infrastructure when even waiting sheds like that doesn't catch their attention, even though they go through there and they use it? They say, don't leave anyone behind. They don't go and use that shed. They go and sit in their air-conditioned transport, in their cars, Honorable Speaker. And even when you go to Nambawalu, I believe the Honorable Minister for Infrastructure was even approached and was given their request on the non-availability of electricity supply in the waiting shed. He's aware of that. And even when they are aware of that, and even the 5-year development plan is saying their strategies that they will construct waiting sheds, but still, Honorable Correa Lavisau is saying, reminding me, outer islands, okay, fine. Is there a waiting shed in Lakamba, Honorable Speaker?
Yes.
In Vanombala, we'll have to go and use the Ndilo tree. All other jetties, Honorable Speaker, has got no waiting sheds, even though it's been promised in this 5-year development plan. 2021 is just in front of us. And the big amount of money is given to infrastructure. And we heard from the Honorable Minister for Infrastructure that waiting sheds, I remember he said that in one of his addresses, that waiting sheds will be constructed. There's none in Vanombalavu, there's none in Lakemba, and even in the previous term of Parliament, the Honorable, I think it was Honorable Karavaki that brought up that the people of Lakemba want the jetty to be constructed in Wainiambia. And I believe the Minister for Economy, he had agreed to that. But till now, there's nothing happening in Wainiambia, Honorable Speaker.
Master plan. Master plan.
Honorable Speaker, we'll now move on to domestic air services. And the goal, unlocking our economic potential through consistent and reliable domestic air services. Honorable Speaker, I'd just like to remind the other side of the House, particularly those that were in the previous term of Parliament, I had tabled a motion in this House. And the motion was on a motion to review the current domestic flight business model with a view to reducing flight costs to allow affordable, low-cost domestic services for the people. And guess what, Honorable Speaker? That motion was defeated. That motion was defeated by the government side, Honorable Speaker. And yet, that was in 2015, Honorable Speaker. And yet, this 5-year plan is telling us that they will do that. That is the problem with this government. They only talk. They're big on talking, but no action. They talk and they mislead the people that all this will be done. But those are just simple examples, Honorable Speaker.
On target. She's on target.
And on the policies, Honorable Speaker, may I pick up on one policy, ensure consistent and reliable air services. And one of the strategies they say that they will implement to achieve that is continue with the upgrading and maintenance of rural airstrips. Honorable Speaker, all these airstrips, no upgrade has been done. Or just, most of them have not been upgraded, Honorable Speaker. Apart from Rotuma, only one, apart from Rotuma. The last time I was in Vanombalavu, the flight to Vanombalavu only goes once a week. And the airfare is almost $300 one way. That is the truth. $300 one way. And Honorable Speaker, any rain, not even a big rain, but only any slight drizzle, the grassy patch gets all soggy and then the flight won't go. And then in here, they're talking about safety. They're talking about safety and reliable air services. Another strategy is that, they say in this plan, continue to provide subsidy to the domestic air service providers under the Domestic Air Service Subsidy Program. What kind of subsidy when we have this $300 airfare one way? And I tell you, Honorable Speaker, on Ilau is almost 1,000. And even Rotuma too, Honorable Speaker. Don't ask me about the cost. This is your five-year plan. This is your strategies that you're going to carry it out. See, that's the problem. You're good on paper, but there's no money to implement these strategies.
Order.
Honorable Speaker, the third strategy, the government is saying, provide an operating grant to the Civil Aviation Authority of Fiji for air transport purposes and a further subsidy to service uneconomical domestic routes. After saying all that, and yet they defeated that motion. See? Excuse me, this was in 2015, and now 2021 is just in front of us, and still nothing has been done. If you're really serious, reduce the airfare to Bonombalab to $200, one way. Honorable Speaker, another strategy in this five-year plan is ensure better air service infrastructure facilities at all airstrips located in outer islands. This is what you're saying. This is what's in the plan. And then the strategy to achieve that, implement a program to facilitate the development of new airstrips and upgrade current airstrips to ensure provision of reliable, quality domestic air services. Honorable Speaker, in Ngau, when you fly to Ngau, the pilot will have to do one circle, another circle, so that they chase away the horses. Honorable Speaker, even in Vanombalab too, now the new fence is in, but before that, they had to try and get the animals off the airstrip. Thank you, Honorable Selai. I wish I hear that from the Honorable Minister for Economy, because you don't look after money. Because all these strategies can only be implemented with the relevant, appropriate budgetary allocation, Honorable Speaker. And before I sit down, Honorable Speaker, in 2015, the Loma Loma jetty was repaired, temporarily repaired. And the government side had said at that time, still now the same government, that the permanent repair will be undertaken soon after that. Up until now, there is still that temporary repair. No permanent repair, Honorable Usmate, has been done to the Loma Loma jetty, Honorable Speaker. With that being said, Honorable Speaker, I would urge the government to go read your plan and make sure that appropriate budgetary allocation is allocated in the upcoming budget, so that all these strategies can be implemented and achieved, so that it really will make a difference in the people's lives in the maritime rural areas, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Minister. You have the floor.
The Speaker said, I rise not to support the motion. Mr. Speaker said, just this morning you must have heard Honourable Nawaikula saying that why is this minister constructing these foot crossings and doing the openings of foot crossings? You see, Honourable Speaker say how serious they are about the rural and maritime community. Look at them. here, Mr. Speaker, say they're bringing a motion. They're bringing a motion to talk about servicing the rural and outer maritime community. And here, when we go around and deliver service, they say that we shouldn't be doing that. Mr. Speaker, say I know that they want those things to be done, but they don't want us to do that. They're jealous of us. They're worried. They're worried that what they didn't do, what they were supposed to do, we are doing it now. We are delivering now. Mr. Speaker says they are very worried when every day when they wake up, they pick up the paper, they see how we deliver service to the people, to the doorstep. They're very worried. They're very worried. You jealous? The Speaker said, through the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development, through the Ministry of Health, through the Ministry of Infrastructure, through the Ministry of Agriculture, through every ministry, Mr. Speaker said, we reach out to the rural and maritime community. Honorable Ranandro, or Honorable Jese Saukuru, mentioned that the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development has got a very small budget. Mr. Speaker said, the budget to construct a road, a bridge, is not in the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development. The budget to construct a health center is not in the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development, Ministry of Health. The budget to construct a school is not in the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development. You don't know, that's why you were saying that. It's in the Ministry of Education, Heritage and Arts. The budget to construct or do a pond for aquaculture is in the Ministry of Fisheries. Mr. Speaker say. They say that we are not doing enough for the rural and maritime community. I'll give you the result. The Speaker said, 2017-2018, in the Central Division, in the Rural, Interior and Maritime Division, in the first quarter, we spent $226,000 alone in 2017-2018, in the Central Division alone. In the Central Division in the second quarter, we spent $152,000. In the Western Division, in the first and second quarter, we spent $376,000. In the Eastern Division, in the first quarter, we spent $89,000. Yeah. In the Northern Division, in the first quarter of 2017-2018, we spent $383,000. Mr. Speaker said, I can read each and every itemized expenditure we did. Mr. Speaker said, under the self-help program, the numerous projects to improve the life are supposed to provide the communities, the households, a sustainable source of income. Projects will include in aquaculture, in agriculture, in terms of establishing nursery, in terms of helping them with establishing of small dairy farms, in terms of poultry farms, in terms of providing them with boat and engine so that they can engage in artisanal fisheries, in terms of providing them with women's club, enhancing them into getting into bee farming. Mr. Speaker said, similarly, we have got numerous projects that were on the books for the last 2 decades that we have addressed through the Ministry of Waterways and Environment. Mr. Speaker said, in the 2018-2019 fiscal year, we undertook a number of riverbank erosion projects to protect and secure rural and maritime communities. Nandakuni village protection work is spent $894,000, about to be completed. Wanyamanga village river training, we spent $902,000. Village protection work, $395,000 fully completed. The Ba Methodist High School protection work, we spent $43,000 completed. The Bunibao village bank protection works, $500,000 fully completed. Mr. Speaker, say the same year, we spent $637,000 for the Namoli village coastal protection work. We spent $987,000 for the Lamini village coastal protection works. Mr. Speaker, say, first time ever, 2 years ago, Honorable Minister of Economy announced that we will undertake rural residential drainage work. Never before, the villages in the interior community were assisted through undertaking drainage in the village area. You go out and see and talk to people in the interior and in the Maritime Division how they were affected during flooding. And now we have begun to undertake flooding work, drainage work to secure the communities in the Rural and Maritime Division. In the Central Division, for Nanduri village, we spent $28,000 to protect them. Baturua village, we spent $18,000 to secure and protect them from flooding. Tauli settlement, we spent $13,000. Nakandi settlement, we spent $43,000. Bakambale and Navua, we spent about $804,000. Waiwawa Navua, we spent $13,400. Nakaulevu Navua, we spent $3,000. Toko Navua settlement, $6,600. Romandrau Navua, $11,000. Waiwawa Navua, Nakau Levu Navua, another $5,000. In the Western Division, Nassau in Nindi, we spent $31,000. Nambitu in Singotoka spent $26,000. Tovatu Singotoka, $37,000. Singotoka, $35,000. Barara Singotoka, $38,000. Nazeva in Singotoka, $43,000. Diri in Singotoka, $28,000. Diriwai Nandronga, $18,000. Nukuloa Ba spent $5,000. Barara in Singotoka, another $38,000. Maro village, we spent $37,000. Tabarau Ba, we spent $14,500. Toko, $7,000. Balata, $900 worth of drainage. Korvuto village, $21,000. Sambeto in Nedi, $7,400. Mr. Speaker, saying the Northern Division, in Bulileka, $34,000. Koriviri, $4,000. Buliaki, $9,600. Nimbu, $16,000. Nimbu village, $16,000 worth of drainage. Langalanga village, $18,500. Bangabanga Nandongo, $16,700. In this way, we spent a total of $418,000, the entire Northern Division in the 2018 year. Mr. Speaker, say, in the Central Division, we spent $173,000 in 2018 to undertake the protection and securing of the villages in the rural residential program. In the Western Division, we spent $339,000 to secure the villages. Mr. Speaker, say, we have to protect the rural and maritime community. We have come up with new programs noting the issues, the challenges that they are facing now, which they did not face about 4 or 5 decades ago. Issues relating to climate change, issues relating to natural disasters. Mr. Speaker, say, through the Ministry of Agriculture, a number of programs have been designed to assist the rural and maritime community. The programs are divided into 2 categories: the demand-driven programs and the non-demand-driven programs. Under the demand-driven programs, for the rural and outer islands, we've got the dairy industry support program, with the export promotion program, we've got the food security program, with the rural and outer island program, we've got the Singatoka Valley Development Program, all geared towards assisting and improving the livelihood of our rural community in a sustainable manner, rather than just giving out cash to them. Mr. Speaker, say, over the last, since 2013, we have spent $18 million to support the rural community to improve their livelihood. Mr. Speaker said, these programs, majority of them were given to groups of cluster farmers so that they are able to work as a team and develop the industry, specific industries. About 40% of them, individuals were given assistance. Mr. Speaker said, so the assistance that are given to the rural and maritime community is to ensure that they are able to source their income in a sustainable manner so that they then grow on their own. Mr. Speaker said, it is really unfortunate that the honourable member is saying that the government is not doing enough to assist, improve the livelihood of the rural and maritime community. We are totally focused through the Ministry of Waterways and Environment, through the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development, the Ministry of Agriculture, which falls under my portfolio, to ensure that we reach out to the rural and maritime community. In fact, Mr. Speaker said, we have made a priority that we reach out to them who are there, who looks forward to us to making their life a little better over time progressively. Mr. Speaker said, unfortunately, they don't understand that development in rural and maritime or any area will be done progressively, incrementally. The first step is to accept that they need assistance, to find out and do a scoping where the gap exists. And the second is to commit resources, which we have done incrementally in every budget. And third is to ensure that we then take the services out and assist them. And the assistance that we are providing is to ensure that it really is intended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion before the House, and that motion is very simple. It is to resolve to establish a special committee under our standing orders of Parliament. And we are mandated through the standing orders to establish one. And the purpose of the special committee is to review our current maritime and outer island development programs. And I think this particular motion has come out after the Standing Committee of Natural Resources had toured the Lao group, and from interactions where the committee went for submission on the petition that was tabled by the Honourable Anare Jale on the shipping services in Lao. They also collected issues that were raised during those public consultation by members of the public on things that they would like to improve in economic development and other government services in the area. And again, this motion is not pulled out from the air. It came from the people, given that the people want some improvement in the current services that the government is currently providing, which we all know sometimes, many times, is very slow in delivery, service delivery, and also the inconsistency of the current programs that are there. And given that these maritime dwellers who are there, they too should not be left behind. This morning, just before the break, the Honourable Attorney General had talked about, he went out of topic in terms of the motion on the annual report for Ministry of Labour, and tried to defend it, and tried to defend the policies of the Fiji First government, knowing very well that the Fiji First government now is becoming very unpopular to the people. And people know that there have been false promises, false starts, and also poor service delivery, and the people have come to know the lies that have been spread and the various exposure that has been done, given the recent development on how the people are not getting what they were promised before elections. And again, the contributions by the Honourable Dr. Reddy proves that the government is very desperate in trying to, that they are moving around the country, opening all these footbridges and everything that the Prime Minister, Northern Tour and all that, with all the meetings and town hall sessions. We move around the country too, through our committee, Justice, Law and Human Rights. And something that I would like to share with the Honorable Speaker, sir, when we move around the country for bill consultation, most of the people who come to give contribution on the bill, they come to seek for assistance. And sometimes we have to adjourn our standing committee meetings to allow these people to ask our chair, assistant minister, for help and other things that they want to raise in their community on development issues and other programs. And once we went to a community in Bua, in Batumbong, Honorable Rohit is laughing away. And we had that session, so we, opposition members, went back into the parliament bus, and they sat there, and they were getting questions from the members of the public in Hindi. And that day they were asking about wireless. Why wireless is not on? Loving themselves there. When we were in Honorable Tenomos, we were laughing with the crowd at the back. But that shows how people are very frustrated in our rural community, that there is poor service delivery, and that is why there is a need for a review. And this review becomes a mirror for government to check itself whether efficient and sufficient work has been done in this area. And the setup of the committee, we have a very capable honorable members there, the Assistant Minister for Agriculture, the Honorable Selai and Adimaitoga, Honorable Vijay, Nath. They are all assistant ministers, and two Honorable Jese Saukuru and Honorable Anare. So I totally support the motion that this particular committee be set up so that they do an independent review through the legislative lenses that they have as legislators to review the programs in this maritime and outer island development programs, so that the executive government is made informed of what the people want. What the honorable ministers are saying in this particular house is totally different from what people are saying and what people are facing in our community. They are using flowery words and big words to try to prove, to gain the confidence of our people. But they are becoming unpopular, I can say. And they are worried because 2022 they will not be in government, running the government. They'll be, I don't know whether they inside or outside. And that is why they do not want this committee to be set up, because things will be exposed on the various programs and the lack of service delivery that this particular ministry is doing in servicing our maritime area. With that, Mr. Speaker, sir, I fully support the motion because it would allow the voices of our people who are maritime and outer island dwellers to raise their concern on what kind of development really suits them. And this would be an ideal opportunity to allow that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I thank the honourable member. I give the floor to the honourable Minister Frame. You have the floor, sir.
Honourable Speaker, I rise to not support the motion before the House. And I'm talking from both a government and a Ministry of Health perspective. Honourable Speaker, over the last few years leading up to when I joined Parliament, I've noted the continued support there is for taking health programs out into the communities, whether it be rural or maritime, with government support. We went by Sophie to Koro back in 2011, I think. And then we went on the Yatula, we went up to Bonombala, in Lakamba, and then we went to Yasa Samoala. And there's been surgical outreaches in all the subdivision hospitals. So Bunindawa, Korobo, currently they just finished in Wenibokasi, surgical outreach program. And these are all supported by government because of the view of the Honourable Prime Minister is to leave no one behind, to reach the unreached and ensure that they're provided with the services. Now, certainly, when you solve an issue in a particular community, then another issue surfaces. That doesn't mean that nothing has been done. It just means that that's been put away and there's another issue that surfaces. When we live in this time of climate change and it's very dynamic, these things do come up. For example, I'll give you an example, Honorable Speaker, with climate-sensitive diseases. We've had dengue, we've had typhoid. This is now, at this moment as we speak, there's hardly any of them now because of the outreach programs that are happening. Here last year alone, we did nearly 500 clean-up campaigns all over Fiji, Ministry of Health, which includes communities in the rural areas, communities in the informal settlements, and those are the outreach programs that we take into these Fijians. Recently, we were up in Danda in Namosi, where the Honorable Prime Minister opened the new government station up in the highlands of Namosi. A very proud day for our people up in the highlands of Namosi. There were already government departments beginning to operate in Danda, in Namosi, beginning to operate. They were beginning to provide services that before they would have to go all the way down to Navua. No other government has done this. No other government. This government took and made a government station up in Danda. About 3 weeks ago, the Honorable Prime Minister was opening several development projects around Wuno Lebu and also outside of Wuno Lebu, which included Koro. There were 3 bridges in Koro. And in those areas, more than 20 million people. I'm not sure about the popularity is being talked about here, but I can tell you they were so happy. They were so happy to have their bridge. They were so happy to have the classrooms, the teachers' quarters, and this is the extent in which this government takes its services. We have 220 facilities all over Fiji. If we do not include Wuno Lebu and Viti Lebu, we have 5 hospitals, 15 health centers, and 31 nursing stations all around the maritime areas. All around the maritime areas. Recently, we've put a nurse practitioner into Rabi Rabi nursing station. Rabi Rabi nursing station, we put a nurse practitioner who's a mid-level practitioner who can be able to work both as a nurse, but also perform procedures and prescribe medicines that before only a nurse cannot be able to do and only a doctor can. That is the level and the extent by which we are providing the services and taking it forward. Honorable Speaker, the Vijay was commissioned about 1.5 years ago and already has made very significant trips all over the maritime areas. Last year it had to do about 2 trips to the whole of Lau group, and beginning of this year, after the cyclone, we then had the Vijay to take the FEMAT team, and they went after the first cyclone, I believe it was TC Tino, they went over to Kandavu, and our people saw all the 75 villages. All the 75 villages were seen, they disinfected them, they picked up those patients that were vulnerable, they treated them in Kandavu hospital or brought them back with them on the Vijay. We also did the same after the second cyclone, I believe it was Tropical Cyclone Selai, the Vijay. Selai was the first one. So Tropical Cyclone Tino, our teams went all the way down to Lau, all the way down to Oni Lau, together with other government departments, using the Banita Kali and the MV Singapore. And they were taken all across. Not only were they there to assess, they did the necessary repair. We had some repairs that needed to be done in Kavala Health Center. During the week they were there, they finished it. Finished the repairs that needed to be done. At the moment as we speak, we are currently doing our major renovations in Kandavu Hospital in Bunisia, and also I believe in Davingele. And that's the extent to which we want to take the services and ensure that our people in the rural and maritime areas enjoy the same type of services that we have. Honorable Speaker, just recently, last week, we went on a northern maritime tour. We went to Yandua, Kiadi, Kombea, Yadata, Ngamea, Yanuda, Rambi, and Kioa. The team from the north, Lambasa Hospital, there were extensive amount of work that they did. Dental extractions, small surgical operations, those who have diabetes and so forth. They were so happy. I was in Yadata. And when I was in Yadata, they said, look, we are blessed because we have obviously the plane from the resort that takes us about 2 or 3 times to Suva. But we are even more blessed that these services have been brought here to us, because when we go to Suva, then we have to go into the clinic to be seen. But here it's been brought to our doors. And again, even though they have the plane that they can travel to Suva 2 or 3 times a week, that is made available to them, there were significant numbers of the islanders that received treatment. That is the extent to which we are going. And I want to also add one important thing. This is the only government that recognizes community health workers. This is the only government that recognizes community health workers. They've been working hard throughout the years. Some of the women I talked to, they say 12 years. Some of the women 20 years working as community health workers. Never received anything. This is the government that's actually made sure that they are compensated for the work that they do. They're paid $200 a month. So we have already a linkage that we have in place with them. They understand what the prescriptional duties are. They are the first point of call. There's about 1,500 of them. And they're linked to our zone nurses, to our medical officers, and also to our subdivision hospitals. Honorable Speaker, even on top of that, we also have the medical evacuation, which is about 2.5 million or $3 million a year. So if anyone is sick in any maritime island and needs to be brought quickly, we don't hesitate when it is safe to be able to send a plane or send a chopper across to bring them back. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. And as I said before, I do not support the motion before the House.
I thank the Honourable Minister. Honourable Lenora Tumbo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I rise in support of the motion that Parliament resolved to form a special and bipartisan committee so we as members of Parliament can actively listen to the people that voted us into this august House. Honourable Speaker, it reminds me of what happened in this House last year when the Honourable Anare Jale brought a motion to bring a petition to look into shipping services in the Lao group. And much to my horror, all 27 members on the other side voted against, even though they come from Lao themselves, married in Lao, mothers are from Lao. Why is that? Is it just because the motion was brought forward by a member of the opposition? Let me just speak to the motion, Honourable Speaker. I would just like to add a couple of points to Honourable Saukuru's motion. And the 2 points are education opportunities and telecommunication needs in the maritime areas. And I speak of Kandavu, obviously. Education opportunities, Honourable Speaker, every year hundreds of children are uprooted from their villages and settlements in Kandavu so that they can be brought to Suva to attend schools in Suva. And we all know why, because their parents want them to attend better schools on the mainland. Now, it would be great if schools in the maritime areas, all of them, were comparable to the best schools in the mainland, on the mainland, but that is not so. I'd like to speak on telecommunications very briefly, Honourable Speaker, and in particular for the needs of professionals, and I speak of teachers in particular who are required to upload their reports online, something which is nigh impossible for many teachers serving in the Kandavu area because they don't have proper telecommunications or access to data. I want to reply to what the Honourable Minister for Health said about the outreaches that the government has been able to undertake. But outreaches are short-term, and we really need long-term infrastructure improvement, especially in northern Kandavu. Lighthouses and beacons, many of them in the northern Kandavu need to be fixed. I start with the Solo Lighthouse, which has been out for more than 2 years. Maybe not in the government vessels you are traveling. Ladies and also Honourable Speaker, so I just want to plead, Honourable Speaker, I just want to plead with government members. Please vote for this motion and prove that you, especially those of them who are from the outer islands, have a heart for the people. Please do something honourable and disprove the opinion that you are just protecting your jobs and are too afraid to rock the Fiji First boat. Please vote for the motion. Inaka.
Honourable Walker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'd like to contribute to the debate on this motion, and I fully support it. Honourable Speaker, I'll speak from an economic perspective, specifically in tourism. Could be the next the next area for development, Honourable Speaker, to the tune of the Coral Coast, how the Coral Coast was discovered, and the Mamanuda, and the Nandi, the Denarau area. I say this, Honorable Speaker, because there are great opportunities in the Lau Group to develop the overwater bungalow products. As you know, Honorable Speaker, the Maldives is one of the most popular destinations today in terms of island resorts, and they have a policy that is called One Island, One Resort. In every island in the Maldives, they're mostly atolls, they have overwater bungalows. And that's about 90% of all the products in the Maldives. And the yield is very, very high, and thus the success of tourism in that country. The Lau Group, Honorable Speaker, with the constellation of islands around, say, Tumbau to be the center of the Lau Group, and the other islands to have their own overwater bungalows, would be the next frontier for tourism in Fiji. We need to be careful here, Honorable Speaker, about tourism in Fiji, is that the products are sometimes tired. It's always the land-based resorts. But other countries in the world, like Tahiti, in the Indian Ocean, are going further out into the sea and building overwater bungalows. And they appeal in a big way to visitors, tourists from the northern part of the hemisphere, specifically the Chinese and the Japanese and the Europeans. So if we can do this, Honorable Speaker, you make Tumbau to be the center, you fly by an average-sized plane from Nadi to Tumbau to be the center, and they feed off from there by seaplane into the other islands in the Lau Group. If we can have one bungalow, one overwater bungalow resort in each of the Lau Groups, you could actually be opening a new region for tourism in this country. And I would like that to be part of the dialogue for this committee, and I would ask that... I don't know about that, Honorable Speaker, because there have been some attempts in the past to build resorts in Lau, and you know, it's for the beauty of what you see in Lau. You really need, Honorable Speaker, to capitalize on that and build something unique that will make the Fiji tourism products much better than what it is today. You have the sea there, the scuba diving, the fishing, other forms of water sport. It could really be opening up a new region for tourism in Fiji. So I'd like to encourage the House to support this motion and consider angles like that could be economically beneficial for the group, for the outer islands, and for Fiji tourism. We cannot, the trend globally, Honorable Speaker, is the migration from the rural areas into the cities. This is happening all over the world. It's very hard to arrest it, but there's one way of doing it, by creating opportunities out in the outer islands. So, Honorable Speaker, I would hope that the House would give this committee its powers to sit and to listen and consider all the proposals, such as the one that I'm sharing with the House today. And, Honorable Speaker, I'm just this question about ethnicity, Honorable Speaker, and the census. The Minister for Fisheries opened his statement by saying, "We are all for all Fijians." That is fine, and that is underlying the belief that you cannot differentiate and you cannot have census based on ethnicity. But let me just remind everyone, it is a known adage. Leaders say this: if you can measure, you can lead. That's basically what it is. If you can measure, you can lead.
What do you want to measure?
If you don't know what is affecting the indigenous, the native community, how can you lead them? If you don't know, if you can measure what is affecting the Indo-Fijian community, you can lead them. So all these, I mean, even the developed democracies take census by ethnicities. The British, the Americans, the Australians, the New Zealanders. Why in Fiji that Fiji first decided that it's going to be discriminatory? Honorable Speaker, in Australia they would know exactly what the Kuri's numbers and what they need. Honorable Speaker. So Honorable Speaker, I just wish that they would change tax, and then and embrace some of these ideas that they're throwing across from this side of the house, and not oppose it today and adopt it a few years later, which they've been known to do, Honorable Speaker. So today, please support this motion, and that it could be part of the dialogue to create a new tourism region in the Lau Group. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I thank the Honorable Engineer Suriratu. Your floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Let me start by commenting on the Honorable Honor's remarks about the plan, the 5-year plan. We all know that plans are just guiding documents, and not everything in any plan will be achieved. Of course, we have to prioritize resources as well. And anyone who has served in any government very well understands that. It is just a guiding. Honorable Speaker, sir, as we say in the military, a plan is better than no plan at all. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, every member of the opposition, before elections and even now when they go out on consultations, they always warn the public, don't be deceived, don't be fooled by the amount of development that the Fiji First government is doing, because that's the responsibility of every government and any government. They are worried. Yes. So definitely this government is doing something right. Yes. Definitely this government is doing something good for the people that they neglected when they were in government. And that is the statement they keep telling Fijians. Excellent. Honorable Speaker, sir, infrastructure development, it's all there. You don't have to be blind, you don't have to be living abroad to ignore what's happening in rural Fiji. Of course, government has to create the environment so that development can continue to progress. Let me focus on the budget in the Ministry of Rural Development. Honorable Rendonro, there are elements of rural development that are not with the Ministry of Rural Development. I'll say rural water, for example. Rural water is with Ministry for Infrastructure. Rural energy is with Ministry of Infrastructure. So don't work according to the budget allocation. You have to look at the whole of government development programs holistically. While still on electricity and water, let me remind the honorable member, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this is the government that took away the 1/3 contribution that was levied on the rural poor to connect their electricity and to connect their water. And that is why these developments were so slow in yesteryears, because they are already poor, but yet we give them unnecessary load so that they contribute 1/3 towards their water project and their electricity projects. Even for roads, Honorable Speaker, sir, I suggest to the honorable members on the other side, there's a good book by the Indian professor called The Economics of the Poor. We need to read that book, because while we take away the 1/3 for water and electricity, they are saying, oh, that's freebies. They're talking about freebies. Is that freebies? Do you really want us to assist rural Fijians? They are saying that that is freebies. But to us, that is why we exist. We are here to serve the interest of every Fijian, and particularly those in rural Fiji. Mr. Speaker, you go around Witilevu, you go around Bonolevu. I hope the Honorable Bulitabu was there in Riketilele and Kutilevu to see how people were relieved when their roads were improved, when bridges were fixed. I don't know what he's going to say when he visits that place next. You should see the satisfaction in the people when we bridge the issue, because they are worried about elections. We are worried about service delivery, and that's why we exist. We serve the people. That's leadership. Empowering the people. What the Honorable Prime Minister says, it's a leg up. We assist them, and of course, they already have. They are not handouts. They are not, see? This is it. The people are listening. The people are listening, Honorable Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, I was in Mbua. I was in Mbua. I saw her as well. I don't know what we were doing there, both of us. And the maternity Tikina from Kumbulau came to see me. Kumbulau, Honorable Speaker, sir, previously, the only connection by bus was through Welebu Tikina into Sarusabu, to the Malata village. There is no connection into number 1. So the maternity Tikina, for him to come from Kumbulau to number 1 to attend a provincial meeting, whatever reasons he needs to come to number 1, he has to pay $250 to hire a carrier. $250, Honorable Speaker. After the meeting, if he has to return, the carrier waits for him, or he has another one. Today, it's $14, $7 each way by bus. This is the impact that development can create on the people. Honorable Saukuru, on economic development, when we create the infrastructure, when we create the environment, definitely the economic activities will boom. I'll give Garnivai for example. If the Honorable Bulitabo has been to Garnivai lately, Agro-Marketing Authority, which is now based in Sabu, they are giving the communities in Garnivai almost $20,000 now every week on fish alone. Why? Because the road from Nukusere to Langi was constructed by this government, and then journey into Garnivai by this government, and that is why there is an agent now in Garnivai buying fish from the Tikinas of Dongutuki, Wundu, and even on the other side, bringing $20,000 worth of fish almost every week. This is just an example, Mr. Speaker, sir. They still haven't come to Sangkadi. I urge them to go to Sangkadi as well, Honorable Speaker, sir. But basically, this is the simple answer to the Honorable Saukuru. In 2009, government created what we call an integrated rural development framework. The mechanism for rural development is already there. Let the civil servants work on the integrated rural development framework. And that rural development framework has the mechanisms to review, revise the plans that are already in existence. Of course, I agree, rural Fiji has a lot to contribute. But government is creating the environment, and of course, we look forward to more participation of our rural people in meaningful activities, not only socially, but economically as well. So it's already there, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I don't support the motion.
Honorable Likia Dionibaravi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the motion before the House. Much has been heard this afternoon on the developments that has been carried out by the Fiji First Government. I would like to say that the plight of the people in the Eastern Division needs the attention of this House. You have been in government for the last 14 years. The people are still crying out for better services. Mr. Speaker, sir, a lot has been said. A lot of my issues have been raised this afternoon. There's something that I'd like to say, that the people in the Eastern Division have, like their forefathers, inherited the islands that they live on. Some live on infertile soil and have to rely on other alternative means for their sustenance and their source of income generation, sir. A challenge is the communications or the digital divide. I will only speak to issues that have not been raised this afternoon. To speak to us in Suva, most of the islands have to climb the highest peaks on their islands to get a signal. That is a continuing challenge. It means that they cannot access the digital Fiji platform, whilst those in urban areas gallop ahead in terms of development and communications, whilst they are left behind. It also means that they are out of the loop when there is consultation on government policies or laws, unless delegations visit to speak to them in person. That is why we support the motion before the House, as the special committee will hear the plights of the people of the Eastern Division and them in the solutions of their development challenges. Mr. Speaker, sir, consultation is the cornerstone of good governance. If the government consulted the people would have a stake in the changes that will come. That is, they have been heard and government has considered their situation. We were very disappointed, Mr. Speaker, sir, with the unilateral decision that was announced last week that requires those who registered before 2017 to bring their birth certificates to renew their voter card and prevent married women from using their husbands' names unless they change the names by deed poll. How can the majority of the people of Fiji, let alone the people from the Eastern Division, obtain birth certificates when people are facing hardship with increasing cost of living, increasing fees and licenses, increasing transportation costs, and in particular for those in the Eastern Division? We would not have if the supervisory election had consulted with the major stakeholders, including the political parties, sir. May we suggest that
very much, the Minister for Women, Children and Poverty.